The apartment looked completely ordinary. Third-floor unit in a quiet residential building in San Diego. Basic furniture, a few family photos on the walls, cooking smells drifting through the hallway. Neighbors described the occupants as friendly. Quiet professionals who kept to themselves. They attended community barbecues. They waved hello in the parking lot. Nothing suggested anything unusual. Nothing raised suspicion for over 4 years. The man living there worked as a defense contractor consultant. His wife ran a small import business, specializing in Persian rugs and handicrafts. They had 2 children attending local schools. They donated to neighborhood causes. They hosted dinner parties featuring traditional cuisine. Everyone considered them model residents. What nobody knew was that this apartment served as the central node for one of the most extensive foreign intelligence operations ever conducted against United States naval installations. The family photos were real. The cooking smells were genuine. The community involvement was strategic. Every friendly interaction served a purpose. Every relationship provided potential access. Every smile concealed something catastrophic. Federal investigators would eventually designate this operation Crimson Tide. The name referenced both the severity of the breach and how deeply the network had penetrated American naval infrastructure. 11 individuals would face arrest. Classified ship movements would be compromised. The damage assessment would take 3 years to complete. Here's what makes this case different from typical espionage prosecutions. These weren't foreign nationals operating under diplomatic cover. They weren't hackers working remotely from overseas. They were naturalized citizens, green card holders, people who had lived in American communities for decades, people their neighbors trusted completely. The first indicator appeared in January 2022. A Navy petty officer stationed at Naval Base San Diego noticed something strange during a routine security review. Someone had accessed deployment schedules using his credentials while he was on leave in Texas. The access occurred at 2:47 a.m. from a terminal inside the base. He had been 1,400 miles away visiting family. The petty officer reported the anomaly immediately. Base security assumed a technical glitch. Someone probably entered the wrong login information. Systems sometimes recorded incorrect timestamps. These explanations seemed reasonable. The report went into a file. Nobody investigated further. What shocks you more? That a foreign intelligence service operated inside Navy bases for years, or that the first warning sign was dismissed as a computer error? Drop your answer below. 3 months later, a second anomaly emerged. This time at Naval Station Norfolk in Virginia. A civilian contractor reported that classified documents she had never accessed appeared in her digital activity log. The files concerned submarine maintenance schedules. She worked in cafeteria management. She had no clearance for those materials. She had no reason to view them. Yet her credentials had downloaded 340 pages of technical specifications. This report reached the Naval Criminal Investigative Service. NCIS opened a preliminary inquiry. Investigators discovered that similar credential anomalies had occurred at 7 different naval installations across the previous 18 months. San Diego, Norfolk, Pearl Harbor, Jacksonville, Bremerton, Mayport, and Kings Bay. Each incident involved credentials belonging to low-level personnel accessing materials far above their clearance. Each access occurred during odd hours. Each was initially dismissed as technical malfunction. The pattern suggested something coordinated. Someone wasn't just stealing credentials randomly. They were specifically targeting people whose absence would be easy to verify. Night shift workers who couldn't have accessed systems, personnel on documented leave, employees with alibis that made the access obviously impossible. Why would anyone want the breaches to look suspicious? NCIS investigators proposed a theory. The credential thefts weren't mistakes, they were tests. Someone was probing how American naval security responded to unauthorized access. They wanted to know how quickly anomalies got reported, how thoroughly they got investigated, whether anyone connected incidents across different bases. The answer to all three questions was troubling. Response was slow. Investigation was superficial. Nobody connected the dots. Then investigators discovered something that changed everything. During the Norfolk inquiry, a digital forensics specialist examined the civilian contractor's computer more closely. She found a small program hidden within legitimate software. The program activated periodically, captured login credentials, and transmitted them to an external server. The transmission lasted less than 2 seconds. It occurred only when the computer was actively in use, hiding within normal network traffic. The program had been installed 14 months earlier. The specialist traced the external server to a cloud hosting service registered in Romania. That company had no physical presence. Its payment came through cryptocurrency. Its registration documents were forged. But the forensics team recovered fragments of the program's code. Embedded within was a string of characters that matched known signatures from Iranian state-sponsored cyber operations. This wasn't random credential theft. This was a coordinated intelligence operation conducted by a foreign government. NCIS immediately elevated the investigation. FBI counterintelligence joined. The scope expanded to every naval installation where anomalies had occurred. What they found would eventually lead to the quiet apartment in San Diego and the friendly family who lived there. Here's what most people don't understand about modern espionage. It rarely looks like the movies. No dead drops in public parks, no mysterious figures in trench coats, no encrypted radio transmissions from embassy basements. Contemporary intelligence operations look like IT consulting firms. They look like import businesses. They look like families attending neighborhood barbecues. The best cover is complete normalcy. The malware forensics team identified the specific program as a variant of something called Shamoon. Iranian hackers had used earlier versions against Saudi Arabian oil companies in 2012 and 2017. Those attacks destroyed data. This version was designed differently. It collected information silently, transmitted it invisibly, and left no obvious traces. Someone had evolved the tool from destruction to espionage. Federal investigators mapped every computer where the malware had been installed. 67 machines across 8 naval installations. They identified when each infection occurred. They correlated infections with physical access logs. They discovered that 61 of the 67 installations happened within 48 hours of routine IT maintenance visits. The maintenance came from contracted technical support companies. 4 different firms had serviced the infected computers. Investigators began examining those companies closely. 3 appeared completely legitimate, with long histories of government contracts and no suspicious connections. The 4th company raised immediate concerns. Pacific Coast Technical Solutions had incorporated just 18 months before the first malware installation. Its founder had no background in IT services. Its employees included several individuals who had entered the United States on student visas and never returned to their home countries. Its office address was a virtual mailbox service. Its client list consisted almost entirely of defense facilities. The company's founder was the friendly man from the San Diego apartment. His name appeared on incorporation documents, tax filings, and government contract applications. His defense contractor consulting business provided cover for frequent visits to naval installations. His wife's import company generated income that couldn't be traced to intelligence services. Their entire American life had been constructed specifically to facilitate espionage. FBI surveillance of the San Diego apartment began in August 2022. Agents documented visitors, photographed vehicles, monitored communications. They identified 23 individuals who maintained contact with the primary subjects. Some were Pacific Coast Technical Solutions employees. Others worked at various naval installations in civilian capacities. Several held positions with no obvious connection to military facilities. What connected them? The investigation would reveal a network far more extensive than anyone initially suspected. Financial analysis exposed the architecture. Pacific Coast Technical Solutions received payment from defense contracts totaling $2.3 million across 3 years. That money flowed through multiple accounts before reaching the San Diego couple. But separate deposits arrived through the wife's import business. Persian rugs came from suppliers in Dubai. Those suppliers received wire transfers from accounts linked to Iranian government entities. The rugs themselves generated minimal profit. The real value moved invisibly alongside the merchandise. Federal investigators estimated that the network received approximately $4.7 million in foreign intelligence funding across 5 years. That money supported 11 operatives positioned throughout the American defense infrastructure. Some installed malware on military computers. Others cultivated relationships with personnel who had access to classified information. Several provided surveillance of naval facility security procedures. Each played a specific role in a comprehensive intelligence collection operation. The damage assessment revealed devastating scope. The network had successfully exfiltrated deployment schedules for 3 aircraft carrier strike groups. Maintenance records identifying which submarines were operational and which were in repair. Port visit schedules showing when specific vessels would be in vulnerable positions. Communication protocols used during training exercises. Personnel files identifying intelligence officers stationed at various commands. Most critically, investigators discovered that real-time location data for 7 Navy vessels had been transmitted to Iranian intelligence during a 16-month period. Someone with access to naval tracking systems had provided continuous updates on American ship positions. Those positions included nuclear-powered submarines, whose locations represent some of the most classified information in the entire defense apparatus. How many people do you think knew their neighbor was transmitting submarine locations to a foreign government? Not suspected, not wondered, actually knew? The answer is 0. Complete operational security. Perfect cover. Absolute betrayal. The investigation identified the source of the real-time tracking data. A Navy systems administrator named Christopher Dalton worked at Naval Information Warfare Systems Command. He had served 14 years in the Navy before transitioning to civilian employment. He maintained top-secret clearance. He had access to fleet management systems. He attended the San Diego couple's dinner parties. Dalton's recruitment followed a careful pattern. He met the couple through a mutual friend in 2018. They socialized occasionally. Dinners, barbecues, community events. The conversations stayed casual for 2 years. Discussions of work remained general. Nobody asked questions that would raise suspicion. In 2020, the relationship shifted. Dalton mentioned financial difficulties during a dinner conversation. His daughter needed medical treatment. Insurance covered only partial costs. He was considering a second job. The couple expressed sympathy. They mentioned that their import business occasionally needed help with logistics, simple work, good pay, completely unofficial. Would he be interested? The work started innocuously. Dalton helped arrange shipping schedules. He contacted suppliers. He verified delivery addresses. He received cash payments that solved his immediate financial problems. Over months, the requests evolved. Could he check if certain dates worked for his schedule? Could he verify whether particular ports had capacity? Could he confirm whether specific vessels would be present during particular periods? By the time Dalton understood what he was actually providing, he had already committed multiple felonies. The network had documentation of his payments. They had records of information he'd provided. They had leverage. Dalton could either continue cooperating or face prosecution and financial ruin. Most importantly, his daughter's treatment had been funded by foreign intelligence money. That money could disappear. Future treatments could become impossible. This is how professional intelligence services recruit assets. They don't approach targets with briefcases full of cash and demands for secrets. They build relationships over years. They identify vulnerabilities. They create dependency gradually. They ensure that by the time the target recognizes the situation, escape seems impossible. Dalton didn't wake up one morning deciding to betray his country. He slid into it through hundreds of small decisions that seemed harmless individually. The FBI arrested all 11 network members simultaneously on March 3, 2024. Agents coordinated raids in San Diego, Norfolk, Seattle, and Houston. The operation involved over 200 federal personnel. Every arrest occurred within a 47-minute window. No suspect had opportunity to warn others. No evidence was destroyed. No operatives escaped. The San Diego apartment yielded critical evidence. Investigators found encrypted communication devices hidden within household electronics. A television contained modified circuitry, allowing secure satellite transmission. A coffee maker held a removable hard drive storing encrypted files. Even children's toys concealed data storage devices. The family's entire home had been configured for intelligence operations while maintaining perfect suburban normalcy. Pacific Coast Technical Solutions offices revealed more. Server logs showed exactly which systems had been compromised. Communication records identified Iranian intelligence handlers. Financial documents traced money flows across 14 countries. Training materials taught operatives how to install malware without detection. Everything was meticulously organized. Professional intelligence services don't operate casually. Christopher Dalton cooperated immediately after his arrest. His testimony revealed the network's full extent. He identified meetings he had attended. He described conversations with handlers. He explained exactly what information he had provided and when. His cooperation would eventually reduce his sentence, but the damage his actions caused would take decades to repair. During debriefings, Dalton described the moment he realized the full consequences of his actions. He had provided submarine locations believing the information was commercially valuable. Someone wanted to know where American vessels would be for business reasons. Maybe shipping, maybe insurance calculations. He convinced himself the information was harmless. Then his handler mentioned something during a routine meeting. The information Dalton provided had helped colleagues avoid certain areas during specific periods. The handler thanked him. American vessels had come close to discovering sensitive activities. The information allowed those activities to continue undetected. Dalton understood then what he had actually been supporting: Iranian naval operations, smuggling routes, possibly weapons transfers. His data had protected foreign military activities from American surveillance. Here's a question the investigation raised. What should happen to someone who commits treason without initially understanding they're committing treason? Dalton didn't approach Iranian intelligence offering to sell secrets. He was manipulated into cooperation through financial desperation and gradual escalation. Does that mitigation matter? Should it affect his punishment? The 11 defendants faced varying charges based on their roles. The San Diego couple, identified as the network coordinators, received charges including conspiracy to commit espionage, unauthorized transmission of national defense information, money laundering, and acting as unregistered agents of a foreign government. Their combined potential sentences exceeded 120 years. 6 Pacific Coast Technical Solutions employees faced charges related to the malware installations. They had knowingly placed intelligence collection software on military computer systems. Their actions represented direct attacks on American defense infrastructure. Each faced potential sentences between 25 and 40 years. 2 additional subjects faced lesser charges. They had provided logistical support without direct access to classified systems. They helped move money, arranged meetings, provided cover for other operatives. Their sentences would likely range from 10 to 15 years. Dalton faced the most serious charges as the primary intelligence source. His transmission of real-time ship locations represented the most damaging breach. Prosecutors initially sought life imprisonment. His cooperation reduced recommendations to 35 years. Even with good behavior credits, he would not be eligible for release until age 78. The trial proceedings revealed details that hadn't emerged during the investigation. One defendant testified that Iranian intelligence had been cultivating sources within American defense infrastructure for over a decade. The 11 arrested individuals represented only one network. Others existed. Some focused on different military branches. Some targeted defense contractors. Some concentrated on research institutions developing new weapons technologies. This testimony couldn't be verified independently. Intelligence services don't confirm the existence of other operations, but counterintelligence analysts found the claims credible. The sophistication of the arrested network suggested extensive experience. The tradecraft employed indicated professional training. The operational security maintained indicated lessons learned from previous operations. This network probably wasn't the first. It probably won't be the last. Federal authorities implemented immediate security changes following the arrests. Every computer serviced by Pacific Coast Technical Solutions underwent forensic examination. Personnel who had socialized with network members received enhanced background investigations. Access protocols at naval installations were modified to prevent similar credential exploitation. Malware detection systems were upgraded across all defense networks. But some damage cannot be undone. The submarine location data transmitted over 16 months had already reached Iranian intelligence. That information revealed patrol patterns, operational capabilities, and strategic positioning. Even outdated information provides value for understanding American naval doctrine. The breach compromised not just specific vessel locations, but broader operational concepts. Damage assessments conducted by naval intelligence estimated the breach's value to Iranian strategic planning at hundreds of millions of dollars. Information that would have required decades of analysis and observation had been provided directly. American naval advantages had been partially neutralized. Response strategies had been revealed. The network's 5-year operation had fundamentally altered the intelligence balance in critical regions. Here's what investigators want you to understand about this case. The threat didn't come from hostile foreign nationals operating illegally on American soil. It came from naturalized citizens, legal residents, people who had built lives in American communities. The network's greatest asset was belonging. They weren't suspicious because they weren't suspicious. They were neighbors. Security agencies face an impossible challenge. How do you identify threats that look exactly like everyone else? Background investigations can reveal problematic histories but not future intentions. Surveillance requires suspicion, but the best operatives never generate suspicion. Financial monitoring can detect large transfers but not incremental payments hidden within legitimate business transactions. Perfect cover defeats conventional detection. The arrested network members had passed multiple background investigations. Some held security clearances for over a decade. Their references described them as patriotic Americans. Their work histories showed dedicated service. Nothing in their files suggested foreign allegiance. Nothing indicated potential disloyalty. They had been constructed from the beginning to appear exactly like trustworthy citizens. Intelligence professionals describe this as the legend problem. Foreign services create complete biographical legends for their operatives, educational records, employment histories, social connections, financial patterns. Everything is fabricated to support a false identity that will withstand investigation. The San Diego couple had immigrated to the United States 22 years before their arrest. Their legend had been under construction for over 2 decades. Every aspect of their American lives had been designed to facilitate eventual intelligence operations. 3 warning signs emerged from the investigation. First, unusual patterns in computer system access. Multiple anomalies should trigger investigation, not dismissal. Second, financial irregularities in contractor businesses. Companies that grow quickly without obvious business justification deserve scrutiny. Third, relationships between cleared personnel and individuals with foreign connections. Background investigators should examine not just subjects, but their social networks. The victims of this espionage operation extend beyond abstract national security. Every sailor serving on vessels whose locations were compromised faced increased risk. Every naval operation conducted during the breach period faced potential adversary awareness. Every strategic advantage built through decades of development was partially surrendered. The network didn't steal money. They stole safety margins. They stole operational surprise. They stole the protection that secrecy provides to military personnel. One Navy officer testified during sentencing proceedings. She had served aboard a submarine whose position data had been transmitted to Iranian intelligence. During the period of the breach, her vessel had conducted operations in sensitive waters. She described knowing now that foreign intelligence services potentially tracked their movements. She described the feeling of violated security. She described wondering whether close calls during that period had been coincidental or something worse. The sentencing judge referenced this testimony specifically. He noted that espionage cases often seem abstract. National security sounds like bureaucratic language. Classified information feels distant from everyday life. But the victims are real people serving in dangerous circumstances. The defendants had increased danger for thousands of military personnel. They had potentially enabled hostile actions that thankfully never materialized. They had gambled with American lives for foreign payment. The network coordinator received a 45-year sentence. His wife received 38 years. 6 technical operatives received sentences ranging from 22 to 31 years. The 2 logistics supporters received 12 and 14 years respectively. Dalton received 35 years following his cooperation. Total sentences across the 11 defendants exceeded 280 years.